All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Patternfly community meeting. My name is Nicole. I'm the Patternfly Scrum Master and one of the Patternfly React devs. And I'll kick us off today with some general topics. I think just one this week. Just a general update, I guess, on the progress we've made towards our next major release of Patternfly. We're currently all hands on deck, if you haven't heard. We are pushing to begin testing of the major release candidate sometime in May and have it released mid to late June is the current plan. And we are about to begin, hopefully later this week, our second round of alpha testing for the release candidate. A large number of the issues we want to get done for this major release have wrapped up their work, and code mods have been and are being written for those changes. So this round of alpha testing is just making sure that we're all still on track and that these code mods are running well and are relatively easy to consume. We'll probably have at least one more round of alpha testing for another suite of features and updates that we're including with the major release before we have an official release candidate to test. But if you'd like more information about any of that, you can certainly reach out to me. There's also information in this document linked in the slides here about our testing process and the status. So trying to be open as we can be for anyone who wants more information. But we're just still pretty much heads down, all hands on deck, trying to get this out as a Patternfly team. So that's where we stand process-wise on that, I guess. I also, at the very top of this slide, the V5 major release timeline link right there. If you open it, it does open a slide deck to more information about what are some of the highest priority features that are going to be released with V5 and some more about our timeline and the reason for doing this major release. So that might be also a good resource if you would like more information or want a place to start. There we go. So that's the update from me. One other thing is that yesterday we did release basically a patch release for Patternfly version 4. Since we're kind of full steam ahead on working on the major release, they're not regularly scheduled releases anymore unless it's a special maintenance release. We did have one of those. It went out yesterday morning. And so you can view the release notes there. It was not very big. The probably most impactful update as part of this release was a suite of new documentation for topology. One of our extensions was released on the website. And a lot of products, I think, are going to be very excited to see the new topology demos and documentation. Those are all live on the site now as of yesterday. So if you haven't checked that out, maybe one of the people who worked on it could drop a link in the chat or something so you can see and you can show it off. But those are live, and a few other small bug fixes and things. And currently no other scheduled patch releases of V4 until the next major release. If anyone has any concerns about that or has any questions or is like, wait, there's this issue we really needed, please reach out. That's the plan. The plan is, though, most of any other opened issues are going to be incorporated into or bugs or anything like that, incorporated into the next major release. So end of June. Okay, so with that, let's see what's next. Oh, awesome, Patternfly Yew. So we have the privilege, I guess, of hearing from a project that uses Patternfly from outside of our Red Hat world, where most of us live most of our time. So we've invited Jens to present a little bit on what that project is and what's going on. So I'm happy to continue sharing the slides, or I could turn over some sharing to you, Jens, whatever's easier.
I can share the slides too. I have them open.
Okay.
I'm sharing a demo too, so maybe it makes more sense. I do
Okay,
the whole.
yeah. I'll pause my sharing and hand it over to you, but welcome. Thanks for being willing to share with us.
Give me. So... Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So, yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be able to present here. So yeah, Patternfly Yew, or Patternfly Yew. We are still not sure in our team how we pronounce it. So here we are the slides. Yeah, so Patternfly Yew is a project that actually isn't far from Red Hat. So it comes out of two Red Hat upstream projects. So maybe just as a background, Yew is a framework that helps you create efficient and reliable web application, like reliable and efficient, that basically comes out of the Rust world. So Yew or Yew is a framework built on the Rust programming language. And instead of using JavaScript and like compiling JavaScript to JavaScript, Rust compiles to WebAssembly when running in the web browser. So normally Rust compiles to native code, but for front ends, you can compile it to WebAssembly. And today, every browser, every major browser in the most recent release has WebAssembly support enabled. So that is available there. Yew itself uses concepts which are similar to React.js in the JavaScript world. So we will see a code snippet in one of the next slides. So maybe that looks a little bit familiar, but a lot of the concepts that are there are actually, well, maybe borrowed or inspired by React.js and probably by others. Now, Patternfly Yew is basically the mix of Patternfly and the Yew framework. So similar to React.js or Patternfly for React, Patternfly Yew provides components built on top of the Yew framework using Patternfly. And this is just an example screenshot. It should look familiar. So there's nothing really fancy. If you know Patternfly, well, yeah, that should look familiar. Let's have a quick peek at some code. This is how it looks like. This is Rust, the Rust programming language, with some attributes and some macros. So you see this HTML macro there, which resembles a little bit what, again, React does, emulating HTML code, which is not quite HTML code, but it's a mix of Rust and HTML syntax. What is interesting there is that all of this is actually being compiled, or like it's processed during compile time and not during runtime. So whatever we have there as components, like the gallery, the card, button, all of this is compiled during compile time into WebAssembly code and then on the browser just executed. So maybe a question like you have JavaScript and React.js, why should you pick Rust? Now this comes a little bit also from our background in our teams, where we are doing Rust in the background and in the back end. But my top 3 reasons for using Rust, even in the front end. Rust finds a lot of bugs during compile time and not during runtime. So reasons for that are the stricter type system. There's a lifetime and borrow checker, which ensures that you don't leak instances, or you ensure that mutability is only limited to who currently has access to and stuff like that. So there's much more to it, but I just want to keep that out here because you can have a full talk about that when it comes to Rust. The second thing is WebAssembly is actually pretty fast. So the reason for that being the compiler compiles during compile time. The browser just executes instructions. So you have basically similar to native CPU instructions. You have virtual machine instructions, and maybe can compare that a little bit to the Java world. You just translate that into the host CPU code and then run that without the need to actually understand what's going on from a browser perspective. And the last of those 3 is Rust is really a loved language. So once you get a little bit into that, you really start to love it. And the question is, like, you do it in the back end, so why should you do it not in the front end? Why should you switch to JavaScript in the front end? And this is a screenshot from a Stack Overflow survey. So they do a survey, and one of the questions is, which language do you love most? Which one do you want to try out most? And Rust has been there for 7 years in a row, the most loved language. So I think that says a little bit. A quick peek into how this looks like. If you are familiar with tool chains in the JavaScript world, this might look completely different. So Rust code gets compiled using a tool called Cargo. That's a tool that you always use in Rust, which is basically a bit of a package manager, a build tool, wrapping this all together, publishing. It's not really comparable to NPM. So NPM does a little bit more or less. So, but it's similar to what's going on there. The outcome of that is a WASM binary. In this case, in other cases, it can be a native binary too. And you might see here, we are talking about client-side rendering. So the Yew framework also can do server-side rendering with hydration and all this stuff. There, the toolchain looks different. So this is focusing on client-side with WebAssembly. And then in most cases, you have additional assets, CSS images, and even JavaScript snippets that you want to bring into some kind of distribution folder, which you then upload somewhere to host that. And all of that processing is done by a tool called Trunk, which runs Cargo in addition, then runs the SAS processor and copies all the snippets and images to a distribution folder. It does hot reloading, all this kind of stuff. So you just enter a change, you press save, and then it compiles and then updates the live web page. A quick peek into the architecture, how this looks like. It should look familiar. So you have the browser, you have the web APIs in the browser, and alongside the JavaScript virtual machine in the browser, you also have this WebAssembly virtual machine. And the biggest chunk of code for a Rust WASM application, this is independent of Yew or independent of Patternfly. That's the WASM code blob that you have there. But this can also interface with JavaScript. So when you have JavaScript code or you want to use JavaScript libraries, there's a way to interface with that. And in the demo, we will see one use case of that. And of course, then you have the DOM, which gets updated by the Yew framework. So there's a virtual DOM where the components get translated into HTML or SVG. And yeah, quick introduction to the project itself. The history, it started around 2.5 years ago, originating from two Red Hat upstream projects. One is Joke IoT, and the other one is Seedwing. We will take a look at the Seedwing console in a minute. The state is, it's not a complete 100% map of all the existing Patternfly functionality to Rust and Yew. It is on an as-needed basis what we did, and what other members in the community or like a handful of contributors brought to this project. So whenever someone needs something, yes, there's a pull request and that gets merged. There's a good amount of components available already, but some features and components are still missing. So that's just it. For the future, yeah, as I learned, there is Patternfly 5 coming up. So that's definitely a thing. Keep up with the changes of the project from Patternfly. But of course, also adding more components and missing features, that's definitely something to do. And with that, let's have a look on how this looks like. So this is the repository Patternfly Yew on GitHub. There's on the right-hand side, there's a link which takes you to the Quick Start project, and the Quick Start project is automatically the demo too. So we have a basic setup of Patternfly. We have this demo here with the click counter that we saw before in the code. This is how this looks in real life. And like again, like this should all look very familiar to you because it's just Patternfly with a different language in the background. We have the different components, buttons, breadcrumbs, all those things that you know. And what we see here is all this logic that we have here. This is not done using JavaScript, but it is running WebAssembly logic in the background. I mentioned before that also JavaScript is on board somewhere. Here we have the example of the popover. When you click this, it tries to figure out where to place that popover. And actually, this is done by Popper.js. And so there is a binding that brings in Popper.js and has bindings from the WASM world into JavaScript world just to call that, exchange the information, and then put the popover in the right space. There's layouts available. There's also a full page link, which unfortunately doesn't work from the GitHub hosted version due to redirection issues with the single page application. That doesn't work, but if you run that locally, it will work. As you see, there's a good bunch of components available, not all of them. And again, like not all of those features that each component has are implemented. But let's take a quick look at something that's more real life. Oh, one thing I forgot is, as you see, the code is on the right-hand side for those components. that are demoed here. And up there is the link to the Quick Start project itself. So that's not Patternfly Yew, that's the Quick Start project. With a few instructions, you should be able to just clone that and run that locally. And so you have the whole demo, the whole Quick Start project ready to get your own project going. Yeah, but now to the Seedwing playground and front end. So this is something we have in our project where we have here the library of our information model that we have. So we can click through of that. We have different Patternfly components. We have dynamic requests to the back end and then present that in different ways. So again, I think like if you know Patternfly, you know what this is. What might be interesting too is Patternfly Yew brings in some Patternfly components into this Yew ecosystem, but there's other things like the Monaco code editor, for example. So Yew has components for that as well, coming from some community project. So this is what we have here. So here we have the full code editor, and this is also embedded A into this Patternfly project and B into this whole project itself, which we have for Seedwing. Again, here you can click and then can dig through the data. So that's for the demo. There is a few links in the slides. So all the repository and one example more on the example we just saw, and also a little bit of information about Yew and Trunk and Rust and WebAssembly in general. So if you're interested, feel free to check this out. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just stop sharing. There we go.
Question. When
Yes.
you use the term quick start, are you that's the name you guys use for your demo? Or is there any relation, because we have a Patternfly quick start. So I was curious if you used anything like that, or if it's just the name you guys use.
No, that's just the name. So quick start implies that you just clone that and can get that running locally very quickly. And this can also be the basis to like massage that sorry into your project as a quick start, like as a recipe blueprint to get started. Sorry. At the same time, this is also the demo. So it's two things. Like you clone that, you have the demo, which is great for contributors. If you ask them, hey, you introduced a new feature in the components, can you also add that to the quick start project? So that's always good.
Mm. Awesome. Thank you. It's great. And it's also great because we get questions all the time of people saying, do you support this framework or this technology? And we'll be like, we're putting a lot of energy into supporting React. So at this time, if you need something else, you can do it. And this is beautiful to see someone, to see that this is so extensive of a implementation of Patternfly. It's great.
Yeah, it's 2.5 years, so a lot of stuff has summed up, and it is pretty easy. Like if you have something, like you have a base, then you can always extend that. So I hope that the Patternfly 5 migration isn't a big hassle. I hope that we will see.
We all hope so. Hope it's not too big a hassle. It's not a complete overhaul, if that's an encouragement. You can look at the slides I linked at the top of that one page. It's just basically it's enabling some of our technology stack a little bit further, like React 18, and so the React updates might not impact you quite as much, obviously, but we're going to hear a little bit more from some of our HTML CSS devs about some of the efforts they're doing right now for the major release as well. So you'll probably be interested in that too, I guess. But we'll keep moving on unless anybody else has any other questions. All right. So with that, next up is our extension of the month. Woo-hoo. Since we've been a little bit slower in pushing out releases and the size of the last release was so small, we're taking advantage of these few months we have until our major release to get the Patternfly community a little bit more familiar with our extensions, which maybe I'll pass it over to Jesse. You can remind everybody what an extension is and then highlight your extension of the month. I'll pass it over to you.
Sure. An extension is basically kind of, I imagine it like components are like Lego pieces that you can put into your project. Extensions is like a Lego kit. So like it's kind of pre-built for you. You can put it into your project. It's a little bit larger, a bigger solution, but still allows us to have consistency in terms of how we address those problems across our products. So our extensions can be a great way to still have the Patternfly solutions in a more complex solution way. So my presentation today is pretty short. It's more for awareness. And I'll share my screen. We've had some docs for Catalog View, which is the one I'm going to be talking about today. But we've finally made it a little more public and want to kind of share it a little bit more. So I think it's come through. So Catalog View, we have different components towards the Catalog View. We have the Catalog View header, the catalog tiles. So like you'll have tiles across headers. You can have a filter side panel if you want to filter in your catalog, what kind of things you want to see, or a properties side panel, or you could have vertical tabs. So basically different ways of handling your catalog view. Often catalog view is used with our extension Quick Start, no relation to the previous presentation. So for example, if we had Quick Starts and catalog view together, this is like one of our demos. You might have a catalog view of quick starts where you want to be able to, have these processes very quickly. So you would have your catalog view, you could click on one and that would bring up your quick start. So that's just one example of how you could use catalog view. Obviously there's different variations you could use. You could have different filtering processes, properties panels, things like that. There's a number of options, but I basically just wanted to share it today, raise some awareness that we have this extension. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I'm happy to help with any of your questions or thoughts or suggestions. That's pretty much, I think, it. Just kind of a quick presentation to make you guys aware.
Just for information, could you, if people have, where was that documentation hosted that you were just showing? Where can they find it on the website?
It is on org, and I can put it into the chat. It's also in the agenda and the slides, I believe, but I will throw it in here for you guys.
Yeah, we have a nav item on patternfly.org for all of our extensions as they've been building out their documentation more and more. And so the catalog view is one of the sub navigation items under extensions. And do you also have links in there to the repo where all this code lives? For extensions? I mean, for catalog view?
I sure could. I think I put it in the slides.
Okay.
But that is a good idea, and I will share it as well.
Yeah, that's a great place to go if you have questions about what it does or any features or enhancements you'd like to see as part of that extension. Bring it to that repo. But it's supported by the Patternfly team, and so you can also bring questions about these extensions to any of our Slack channels. We'll direct you to the person who knows most. Maybe Jesse. Awesome. All right, thank you. And let's see, next up, we have some updates from some of our designers about some visual changes coming to Patternfly branding. I don't know how to sum it up, but I'll let them do it. I'll hand it over to Michael first since he's unmuted.
Yeah, I think branding about sums it up.
Okay.
We've got some exciting updates to the Patternfly branding to share today. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. So yeah, we've got some exciting updates that we're proposing for the logo and the homepage. I'm going to run through the logo, and then I'm going to hand it off to Lucia to talk about her work on the homepage. This is something that both Lucia and I have been working on for a while now. We did share this with our at the team meeting last week. So some of you might be, oh, there we go. Might be a rerun for some of you, but for all of those new on the call, welcome and if you enjoy. I'm going to kind of run through these intro slides just to get to the good stuff, but also for the sake of time. But basically, it's just time for a new logo. We've had the current logo since 2014, and we've had a few iterations of Patternfly since then. And with this new iteration of Patternfly 5, we thought it would be the perfect opportunity to do a little refresh of the logo. There are some pain points of the current logo that we did want to improve. The level of detail. It's made with really thin lines, which don't scale down very well. When you get to small sizes, they become, anti-aliased and blurred a little bit and can be a little tough to work with. It is a little visually complicated. It's not too bad, but we did want to go for something a little bit more minimal, and some other stuff like we actually have outdated colors in the logo, don't even reflect our current color palette, our blues. And the word mark is actually still using overpass. So we've since updated to the Red Hat font. So that's just a small thing we want to improve. And overall, what we're going for is just a fresh, modern look. We want to reflect the new look and feel of the new theme that we're working on, and improve, again, that kind of scalability so it's easier to use in different contexts. So here's kind of the start of kind of where we began. On the left-hand side there, you can see kind of our initial explorations. I sort of proposed this one on the bottom, which is very simple, and we liked that kind of simplicity. And Lucia was playing around with transparency, which we thought was really cool. Kind of a fun thing that kind of connects transparency to Patternfly is that flies actually have transparent wings. So it actually is like a pretty cool rationale to have transparency. And that led us to the explorations you see on the right. We really wanted to distill the logo down into its basic parts. We've got the body in the center there, and then we've got the wings. And we also wanted to use simple shapes that we use in Patternfly to build those forms. Squares and circles, right? Everything's kind of made up of these squares and circles. So we kind of were playing around with the body being either some form of a square or a circle, and then the wings being that nice square shape with that cut through to create the wings. And we played around with a lot of variations, which you can see on the bottom right here, trying some rounded corners, trying different types of those body shapes, whether it's maybe a quarter circle or a full circle or square, as you see above. And that led us to kind of where we are today, with our current iteration, our current favorite, which you can see here. We sort of pushed it a little bit further with that, with those rounded corners on the wings, and then that kind of quarter circle as the body to create this nice kind of minimal shape. And then of course the wings kind of have that transparency effect. And we're playing around with these gradients on the wings to potentially represent different subsets of Patternfly. These are kind of just placeholder examples here with, we probably don't need a whole logo for extension or design tokens, but it's just an example to show how we could play around with color to represent these different initiatives. And of course, you can see this little animation I did. I got excited about it, and I was like, oh, what if the wings were flapping? And did this little animation transitioning through the different colors that we were playing around with. On the right-hand side here, I'll kind of flip back and forth a couple times, but you can see some other things we're playing around with. What if the body's an outline rather than a full filled circle? Just seeing how that works. We're also playing around with potentially a single color like outline version and how that might look. Not quite there yet, but it's something we want to keep in mind just to see how it works. It was a suggestion we got and we wanted to explore it. And so we've kind of got these final options of these two shapes that we think are really good options. We've got the one that we've been looking at with this quarter circle here and some variations. How does this appear on a dark background or a colored background? How does it work if we add a background to it? Things like that. And then the other option is that non-rounded wings and the circle body. So I'll flip back and forth again between those two really quick, but you can kind of see the difference there. Those are our two kind of favorite options here. What I like about this one is that it is more true to those kind of shapes that make up the system, just circles and squares. But I also really love the kind of futurist like modernity of this one. I think it's really clean, and it is like a really neat kind of abstract fly shape that I think reads pretty well. And that is pretty much it for the logo. I'll run through the animation one more time just because it's fun. And then I'll hand it off to Lucia to talk a little bit about some redesign of the homepage that we're working on.
Yeah.
Lucy, do you want me to control the slides, or do you want to take over?
Yeah, you have them up already. I'll
Okay.
just go through. So yeah, we thought while we're updating the Patternfly logo, and we're also working on a new theme for Patternfly UI, Patternfly Penta, which has like a softer, more modern look and feel. We thought it was a good time to also revisit the homepage design. And in the past, we've actually gotten some requests to make the content on the homepage design more useful for returning users. So we wanted to also look at the content that we're displaying there. Right now, it's definitely geared more towards first-time users of Patternfly, just discovery. But there is definitely an opportunity to put some more useful information for people who are coming to the site often. And we also just wanted to audit the existing content, simplify and identify any content gaps. So I've been working with Erin on this effort, and she's our content designer for Patternfly, and it's been a really fun project to work on. You can go to the next slide. So these are, of course, not all the explorations, but we put together a bunch of different explorations for what this homepage could look like. We really wanted to push it beyond what we currently have, not just fine-tune what we have. And we these were kind of our top contenders, and we found that across all of them, we really wanted to lean into this heavy messaging typography treatment to get that point across, and maybe less so on like heavy stylized graphics. So you can go to the next slide. So this is our current direction that we feel most strongly about. It's closest to what we're going to get there. It's pretty close. There's still like some copy updates that we're going to finalize, and some of the design might change. But in general, these are our updates that we have agreed on and the direction we're going in. We're going to update the styles on that homepage to reflect the new Patternfly Penta theme, which I have a slide after these that will show you what that looks like in product, give a sneak peek. We're going to update the logo, like whatever one we choose from that presentation Michael just gave. Update tagline and body copy. We're going to replace the Get Started CTA with separate Start Designing and Start Developing actions, those CTAs that show up in the header. We're also going to add in a display component showcase in the header and give the ability to switch between our light and dark themes. Theming is a huge thing that we're going to support in V5, so we really wanted to showcase that and also show some of our components right on the homepage without having to click into all of the separate component subpages to get a view of those. And then,
Sorry.
yeah, we can show that if you want. Yeah, you can click forward. Yeah, this is, and then toggle between those two slides just shows what that switcher could look like in the header. And then if you want to go back.
Sure.
To the list, yeah. We're going to add in, this is more into the content updates, but we're going to add in some kind of explore our blog section and feature blog articles. We post a lot of awesome and very useful content on our blog. So we just wanted to kind of raise that up on the homepage, make that more easy to access. And then also add in a stay informed section, which we can use to feature our latest release notes, put a CTA to join our mailing list, link our accessibility guide there. The content on that, what we're going to show there isn't solidified quite yet, but it'll be a really good information to show some just more useful information to get people to stay engaged. And then we currently have flyer fundamentals on our Patternfly homepage, but we're planning on moving that to a community page on our website. And we're also proposing new landing pages for our design guidelines and layouts that we would link from the homepage, which we currently do not have. And then this is just that component switcher again. And then this is kind of a overall look and feel once you put the new logo together with the homepage, kind of just showing how that visual identity will start to align and also align with our new Patternfly Penta theme, which have a little sneak peek there on the left of the screen of that in product. So it'll just, all these updates are just one step further into making Patternfly's visual language very consistent and refined.
And this is all very exciting. I'm excited to see it all on the website. Oh, Evan has a comment first. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Just making sure my camera's on. Yeah, and it may be what you were about to jump into. I just wanted to highlight, we're kind of jumping back and forth a little bit in this presentation between two different things. So just for clarity, so our team is currently heads down on V5, which is the next major release of Patternfly, and Nicole was speaking towards that, and I think shared some of the big goals that we have with V5. What we're looking at here are some future designs that we're hoping, some of the work that V5 will actually enable a little more flexibility. So it's really cool to see, some of the ideas that we have in the pipeline for, the future shape and look of Patternfly. Just wanted to clarify that, at the release of V5, these kind of, updated visuals and designs and things like that, we're not intending to have any sort of like visual breaking changes with the V5 release. So the V5 is kind of laying the groundwork for a lot of these future design updates, but don't want people to see this and think, oh gosh, like everything's going to look totally different when I upgrade. That's definitely something that we're being very intentional about, releasing this as kind of an opt-in feature down the road. So we're really excited about the updates that we're not only making in V5, but also kind of planning for the future and some of the more flexibility that we'll have. So this is kind of a sneak peek at what's coming once our version 5 is out the door and kind of enables some more options with us.
Yeah. What to officially support dark theme with this next major release, we're enabling the creation of who knows how many themes possibly, right? We could theme Patternfly many ways, and with that possibility, the opportunity for a design refresh is something that we're getting a head start on. We're just imagining what the next theme could look like, which hopefully won't require too many or hopefully really any redesigns. Just pick your theme and it'll work. That's the goal in the long run. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. But probably, I guess, if anyone wants any more information about Patternfly's Penta theme that's being worked on right now, and hopefully will be available for pulling into product or just experimenting within product shortly after the major release, let me know. I don't know yet. I don't know if anybody here knows yet when the new Penta theme, the new design refresh theme will be available, or if we have a targeted date for that yet. I don't think we do we?
I think from a design perspective, we're really working on trying to make this available, by Q3 when Penta rolls, and then Patternfly 5 rolls out. But I think the exact, as Evan and you pointed out, the exact availability is still kind of dependent on a lot of the Patternfly 5 work.
Yeah.
So the design team is kind of moving ahead with trying to have the styling ready to go, and to and I think the website stuff that Lucia presented, we're hoping to be able to refresh our website when we roll out Patternfly 5 also. So that's a little bit independent from the actual theme that will be available for product.
Yes. With the major release, there should be quite a few website enhancements, and it'll be something to look forward to. Absolutely. Okay. Great. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda, unless anybody has any questions on that, I guess I can pause for a moment longer. Okay. Well, the next, and I think the final officially submitted agenda topic today is an update on the work that's being done in preparation for the major release to prevent style collisions between the old version of Patternfly and Patternfly 5. That's something that Matt Nolting's been working on quite a bit. So he's just going to give a little bit of a status update on what the implementation for that solution looks like and how it's going. So I'll hand it over to you, Matt.
Great, thank you. That is it's a tough act to follow, Caledonia. That's beautiful work. All right, let me present this. Presenter view. You see that? Good.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so V4, V5 style collision solution.
Oh, wait,
what are objects?
I think you're showing us your speaker notes, not the slides.
Uh-oh. That is
don't know how you
not
did
what I
that.
want to show you. Here, let's do this again. I'll just share that. Oh, geez. One more time.
It's always the hardest part.
Mhm. Okay. See it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. So V4, V5 style collisions. Objective. Why do we need a solution for this in the first place? The three primary objectives are to allow consumers to use multiple versions of Patternfly in a single app. And that is because some of our applications use multiple versions of Patternfly in a single app. They can't always upgrade immediately from, because the code base is deep and large and is established, can't always upgrade immediately from one version to another. So they might use multiple versions in that app. And we want to support this and make upgrading as seamless as possible, as well as supporting those users who may need to incrementally migrate near different versions. And we want to avoid potentially styling collisions from one version to the other, which may be default from a version 4, excuse me, from a version 4 component to a version 5 component. And the issue is that a property, one potential approach to doing something like this is to simply update all CSS variables like you would do with a theming update. Well, the issue with that is that when you're writing CSS, you may have overwritten a property or added a property to one of those versions and not the other. So a V4 card may have a color applied to it or a border applied to it that V5 doesn't, or vice versa. And that's what we're trying to solve for. And also, updating CSS properties would require reverting any of those properties, which could lead to potential issues that we can't really predict. So, and adding customizability with the solution is always a goal. So I'll go to the next slide. That'll make sense here. So the solution that we've arrived at, is version prefixing on the selectors and also the CSS variables. And what that looks like is a global namespace prefix and then a global version prefix. And what we do is combine those with a SAS variable to create PF v5. Either of those are set as default variables, SAS variables. So they can be updated anywhere in the code, anywhere you customize your SAS or your CSS. And what that looks like is this. You use that prefix to generate your component selector. So we would prefix with the pf-prefix card, and what that would generate is a selector that is pf v5c card, and then you would use that selector that you generated anywhere where you would use the card selector. So if you have a card title, you would use this selector, and then card __ title, header, whatever it may be. And then you reference variables the same way. And so what that allows us to do is use a single SAS variable anywhere within our code base, and we only need to control that in one place or configure that. And so what this does is it makes inheritance no longer an issue. It avoids any custom styling collisions you may have from one version to another. So if you have a version 4 card that has a special background color, that won't apply to the version 5 card. You can update that to apply to the version 5 card, but it's not going to happen automatically. And that prefix is also, again, customizable by the consumer. We also have a global prefix for our global variables, and all those include the version as well. So what that looks like is the PF global. You wouldn't need to include a version with this again. It would generate your prefix PF global color 100, which would refer to a SAS variable that is also prefixed with PF v5, whatever the variable is. And that would look like, geez, I don't present very often, can you tell? And then what that would generate is your selector, and it would look like this: your selector and your value. So it would be PF V card C color, and that would refer to the global color, which is V5 global color. I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions. Does that make sense?
So what we're anticipating this will mean, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, that with V5, basically, essentially all of the class names and global variable names are going to be updated, right? So everything will be new. So if you have any references in your code base to any of the CSS class names or global variables, you'll have to update them if you're moving completely over to V5. If you're consuming our React library and you are using pure React without any overrides, you shouldn't have to make any changes, because the React library is also going to consume these changes and update the classes for you.
That's right. It's only if you have updated, customized whatever in version 4. And the idea is that we don't want that to break, right? We have to prevent that from breaking, and we can't predict how one user to the other has updated or customized the code base. So we also encourage all of our users to apply that same technique to prefixing their selectors and their whatever variables they've customized in the same way. So yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's being done in a pretty programmatic way, like almost like a search replace all.
And the idea is that when our consumers update their code, they can then, when we move to version 6, change the version in one place, and it applies anywhere that those customizations have happened.
All right. Hopefully that's clear. And if anybody has any questions about that or concerns about that solution, please reach out. We will be rolling out, we're doing alpha testing. This is going to be included in that. And we'll be rolling out release candidate testing and make sure any products who are interested in providing feedback during that point in the process, you'll have a chance to see it. But we definitely want as much feedback as we can get. So let us know. All right. I think that's all of the items on the agenda. Let me quickly just pull up the informational page for anyone who needs to see it. Oh, I'm positive I did not update our next office hours date here. Yeah, I didn't update this last slide. I'm sorry. But if you have not joined the Patternfly mailing list, please do so. I'll send out the recording of this meeting plus all of the slides and links to the listserv. Also, you could import the Patternfly community calendar onto your Google Calendar if you'd like to keep abreast of any updates to the scheduling. It gives you projected Patternfly release windows and community meetings and things like that. My contact information is here, and our next office hours is, I don't even know off the top of my head. I should have updated this. I'm sorry. Probably in 2 weeks is my guess. Let's see.
Looks like April 5th is what we have it on the calendar.
All right, April 5th, a week and a day. So maybe we'll see you there. But thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next month.